We both ended up having to put just over 10 grand into the business. So after that, I didn't have a whole lot of savings in my bank account. So a lot of people say, oh, that was such a big risk, but knowing what you know and who, like the type of people entrepreneurs are, it wasn't a risk at all. It would have been a risk to keep doing something I hated. If you don't like solving problems, or if you just want an easy life, like don't start a business. You want to hire people that, like, you want to be the dumbest person in the room. You know what I mean? Like, I want to hire people that knows more than me. And it was hard at the start, like being a young entrepreneur, you just had this awesome run. It's like you have that little bit of ego where you think like, oh, can I let go and can I pass this on, delegate to someone in the team? And like, it was a little bit scary at first, but then once you do it and you see the results, you're like, dude, this is better. We're getting better results and I don't have to do it.
Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of the Make It Happen show. I'm Tim Morris, the CEO at The Entourage, and today I'm joined by Dylan Mullan, founder and director of Happy Skin Co. In just 2.5 short years, Dylan has really brought at-home laser hair removal to the masses, and in the process has grown Happy Skin Co. from nothing to over $25 million in revenue. So today we talk about how he made that happen, particularly the marketing strategies he used to get Happy Skin Co. across Australia and the world. We also talk about Dylan himself and how he's evolved as an entrepreneur, how he mentally and physically decompresses and gets himself ready to drive the business further. We also talk about the business and how it's evolved over 2.5 years and what's ahead. So if you're an entrepreneur looking to start your business, particularly in e-commerce, or you're in that high growth phase already, there are some fantastic lessons in here from someone who has walked the road ahead of you. Dylan's also a fantastic guy with lots of great wisdom, so let's get into it. Well, Dylan, welcome to the show. Really awesome to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. It's getting to be that time of year for e-commerce. It's very exciting, very busy days ahead with Black Friday and Christmas just around the corner, but I'm feeling good. So yeah.
Nice. Actually, what does it involve gearing up for that?
A lot of content planning and execution, project managing the content coming through, ensuring stock is getting delivered into our warehouse on time. So we have what we need, because the volumes are going to be pretty crazy. They're a lot different to most times of the year, and shipping prices go up because everyone's like, oh yeah, it's Christmas, we're going to put up our shipping prices, and things take longer. So just preparation is key. Obviously, this is our third Black Friday Christmas period, so a little bit more prepared than we have been in the previous 2 years. I like to think every year we get a little bit more organized with that. So everything's on track now. Again, like it's going to seem like everything's a mad rush in the end, as it always does, but we're in a better position this year than before. So
yeah, well, so this is your third Black Friday. It almost sounds like you're an old hand at this, but actually it's been a very, very fast and meteoric growth path for you. You've really revolutionized the industry. You've brought at-home hair removal to the masses. Like, how have you made that happen?
Well, yeah, like the way we've made it happen is just, it's so similar to everyone, and there's really no way around it, as I'm sure you know. Like, we didn't just click our fingers and like, here's the business, here's all this money, here's like everything. We launched 2.5 years ago now. I actually launched it with a mate at the time. And we probably were working on the business for about 10 months before we launched. We both had full-time jobs, as is the story of so many people. We both of us were pretty unfulfilled doing that. We weren't doing work that really lit us up or that we could see ourselves being happy doing long term. And we're doing pretty long hours as well. Like, I'd be waking up at 7 a.m., going into the office, working all day, getting back at like 6 p.m. And like so many people, after that long day of doing something you don't really want to do, like your body just wants like, oh, let me like put my feet up, watch some Netflix or have a wine. But like, we understood, and something I'm a really big believer in, like, if I just gave into those urges, like, I'd still be, waking up every day and going to that job I really didn't like. So we just put in the work. Like, so this is how we did it: 3 days a week, 3 weekdays, we'd meet up at 7, work till 12. And then on the weekends, we'd either do a full 8-hour day or two 8-hour days. So that went on, obviously, with the product we have. There was a lot of, like, first of all, like, testing and safety precautions and legality stuff. Once we cleared all that, because this was a very, very new technology at the time, like no one had really heard of it. So we had to go through all of that. Then we had to go through, okay, look, it seems like we can do this as a business. This is all cool. Now, is this product going to actually work? So that was the second phase, testing that. And honestly, as soon as we tested it on the first few people. And after about 2-3 weeks, like, there is like a noticeable difference in their hair. And as soon as we saw that, we got so excited. We were both like early mid-20s at the time. We're like, dude, this is gonna be so good. We believe in this. This is really, really cool. And we put in, like, I'd been working full time for maybe 2 years. I had not a whole lot of savings. I might have had like maybe like 14 grand in my bank account. We both ended up having to put just over 10 grand into the business. So after that, I didn't have a whole lot of savings in my bank account. So a lot of people say, oh, that was such a big risk. But knowing what you know, and who, like the type of people entrepreneurs are, it wasn't a risk at all. It would have been a risk to keep doing something I hated. And then we launched the business, and it's a story I've told a couple of times, but I like to tell it because it just goes to show people how quickly your life can change. And it's like an overnight success that took like a year or 10 years or 5 years in the making. All that work.
I think that's the most important thing. Like people do see like rapid rise like you guys, and they do think it's a little bit overnight. But you're like, no. It was that first, that you were saying, 10 months of, like, that was grind, and you haven't even launched yet. And then so 10 months, it must have been amazing to start getting those first results though. When you got the product to the point, that first 3 weeks, how did that feel?
Well, that was the biggest question, because it was something that made a whole lot of sense. Like laser hair removal, IPL hair removal was so common in Australia. Like we literally asked hundreds of girls between the ages of 20 and 30 predominantly, have you done laser hair removal in the past? And honestly, like 95% were either doing it or had done it in the past. And there wasn't really a solution where people could do it from home in their own time. It's so much more affordable. Like the price of our handset when we launched was like essentially the price of a full body session. And they would need to go do that for like 6-9 months. So we were confident. Like we got really excited when we found that out. And then we launched it. We were spending like maybe like $100 a day on ads at the start. No, not even. A couple $100 a week. And 11 p.m., the first night we launched, I go to bed, just in bed, about to fall asleep. My mate calls me. He's like, dude, we just got our first sale. I was like, what? Like, we're celebrating. I'm like, dude, this is nuts. This is mental. I'm like, jump out of my bed in my pajamas, drive over to his house, 5 minutes away, pop a bottle of champagne. We're like, that's it. Like, it just proves the concept. You know, like someone bought it already. It just proves that people are going to want this. Awesome. Second day, no sales. But we're like, yeah, that's cool. Like we thought this is going to take time to build. It's going to be a journey. We gave ourselves the whole year. Like the whole year of 2018, we launched in April. Our whole goal was to be able to quit our full-time jobs and do this full-time. The third day comes around. The third day we had our first influencer post. He posted at about 7 p.m. at night. And between 7 and midnight, we made about 7.5 grand.
Oh, wow.
And like we made back like a third of our investment in one night. Long story short, obviously cracked heaps of champagne that night. We're like high-fiving. For the next 2 weeks, we're just like, oh, that's how good it works. We booked as many other influencers as we can. So we actually booked an influencer from, I think it was Bachelor in Paradise, like someone who's on that show. And by the time we booked him, he had grown, like, because they're on TV so often, like 30, 40,000 followers. So we're like, crap, that's awesome. Let's book everyone else from that show. Sending messages, like DMs to everyone, like, let us send you this stuff if you like, let's post it. Did that, ended up working with the whole cast. So for 2 weeks after we launched, we had to quit our jobs, full-time jobs. For those 2 weeks, we'd go to work, be so distracted on my phone, replying to customers all day. Obviously, it wouldn't be a great employee. And then came home and we were packing orders from 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. at night.
Yeah, what, in your living room or?
Yeah, my mate's living room, my old business partner's living room. His mum was helping and my little brother was helping. And that was our life, like a couple hours sleep, wake up, go to work. And then by the time 3 months came along, we had full-time staff, we had a warehouse. So it was the complete like e-commerce, startup, bootstrap dream run.
Yeah, well done. And now we're only 3 months in, right? So this is still over 2 years ago.
Yeah. So it's been a journey since then.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, how has the journey been since then? What were so I mean, that's awesome. Those 10 months of hard work and that first putting it out there paid off. Then you had a real like a really massive fast start. But then from there, you've had to grow this like pretty sizable business. Like you're doing $25 million in turnover. You've got, I know you're selling here, the States, but also a bunch of other countries international. So what have been the kind of major milestones along that journey?
Yeah, so I think about 4 months after launch, we made our first international site. So before then, Australia was like over 95% of our sales. Probably around October, November 2018, we set up our US store, and we booked a bunch of US influencers, some of like Kylie Jenner's friends. By the time we booked them and we started working with them, that really increased. Like US went from nothing to as much as Australia in the space of 2 months. So it had caught up really quick. And then our first really exciting milestone, because we were able to, at that point, we had a lot of success with influencer marketing, but we were still only spending like a couple of $1,000s a day on ads. That Black Friday of 2018, that's when we cracked the code to scaling ad spend, and we were able to like 6x our ad spend from there.
What is your code to crack it to that ad spend?
Well, it's just like it's more of an attitude. Like there are some thing like ways that you can scale it, but it's more of an attitude. Like so many businesses, and I hate, like that's why I hate working with agencies. Like we've tried working with agencies in the past. Like submit your budgets for next month. What do you want to spend for this month, the month after that month? Like all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, maybe that's how marketing was like back in the day. And it's not like we don't make projections and set budgets. It's like if we have a campaign, if we wake up and a campaign is over indexing, we will turn up the budgets that day on that campaign 5 times. And we'll just, anything that works, we'll just keep pushing it until the ROAS drops to a certain amount. Okay, then we'll back off, and then we'll put the money back into retargeting or the money into other acquisition channels. We'll just chase the ROAS. And so many people be like, oh, I've got a really good ROAS spending this much. Should I push it anymore?
It's like,
yeah, it's like, no, I'm not. But like, we're just like, we're going for growth. So it's just an attitude, you know?
Yeah, nice. So who, actually, like getting down to the details, like who manages all those ad campaigns now? Like who's in there chasing the ROAS on the different campaigns that you're running? Are you still heavily involved in that, or you got a team that's looking after that now?
Yeah, I've got a team that does that now. No, I probably for about a year, maybe even more now, I haven't been into that.
Except for when you can help yourself, I'm sure. I bet you jump in every now and again.
I still look at our account every day. You can't help yourself for sure. But that was like another really exciting part of the journey. Like that was scary to like hand over the keys to your car to someone else, or to give it to like the team and let them know, okay, this is kind of what works for us now. Let's see how we can learn together, grow. Like, what are you going to be able to figure out? And we've improved a lot of things from there as well. So it's like, you want to hire people that like, you want to be the dumbest person in the room. You know what I mean? Like I want to hire people that knows more than me. And it was hard at the start, like being a young entrepreneur, you just had this awesome run. It's like you have that little bit of ego where you think like, oh, can I let go and can I pass this on, delegate to someone in the team? And like it was a little bit scary at first, but then once you do it and you see the results, you're like, dude, this is better. We're getting better results and I don't have to do it.
Yeah, well, you can either, that is a challenge for so many entrepreneurs as their business starts to grow. It's like you can either hold on to it all yourself and do it 100% perfect, or in your eyes perfect at least, or you can, entrust your team and start delegating, and they're not all going to get it to 100%, but there's going to be like 10 of them at 80% or 10 of them at 90%, and that is together more than you'd ever be able to achieve as a solo guy. So well done on that. So it actually just kind of like going back to the marketing, and so I hear there's 2 distinct stages there. You really started off with influencer marketing, and that had great results for you, both here and overseas, but then you really started getting into like the paid advertising, predominantly on Facebook, Instagram. Those are 2 main platforms, or where else?
Yeah, Google didn't even really come until like January 2019. So we weren't even really doing like Google ads until January.
And so you moved in this. So now you do a lot of like looking at what campaigns are producing a good return on advertising spend, and when they were good ROAS, you dump more money in until it starts kind of breaking down, scale it till it breaks down. Are you still doing the influencer marketing as well, or are you more paid?
More paid. We are. So influencers, that's in terms of like things change so quickly in business. Like influencers, at the moment, the way we approach influencer marketing, and we've got a really big campaign coming up soon, so we're going to test some new strategies. But like influencers these days, like we mainly use them for like brand, you know what I mean? For like they're for brand awareness. Okay, we're still in the market there, because it's like influencer marketing isn't really as scalable, and with a lot of influencers in the rise of influencer marketing over the last couple of years, like so many influencers were just like price themselves like ridiculously. Like, okay, I'm not going to pay you X amount because I know an influencer your size with your amount of likes, your amount of followers will probably return between this and this. It's just not worth it. You know what I mean? So we only make smart decisions. That was the first step. And then now it's like more of like a brand fit, like who's a good brand fit for the company, who actually like is suitable for the product, who loves our brand, loves our product, loves our values, and shares the same like ethos. So that's more how we look at it now. But scaling through paid advertising has probably been the biggest focus, like outside the first year. Yeah.
I think a key principle with marketing, particularly digital marketing, which you guys have obviously followed, is like you just got to be constantly looking at what's over-indexing, what's working better than it was yesterday, and then once something pops up, you chase really hard on that, because things do change so fast. Like I actually think, around that 2018 mark really was prime time for influencer marketing, and you guys happen to be right on that. But then, You know, then Facebook and Insta had a really good run, and it's getting very competitive on those platforms now. And you know, the next thing will pop up, and so it's just, you know, you just got to keep on keeping your eye out for, you know, platforms that are working well, avenues that are working well, and then particular things. And then I love what you guys do. When you see something going really well, just go hard.
Well, that's it, right? Like that's, and like so many people like that, even before they have a business, whether it's like, okay, they're scared to take the next step in their business, but that so many people get like a good idea, or they think something's good, but it's not the perfect idea. So they don't launch it, and they sit on it and they wait, or they don't, we just backed ourselves every step of the way. We're like, look, even if we fail, like we're prepared to fail. Like we put it all on the line, and like you have to take risks. And there's like, to a certain extent, like when you're starting a business, you have to be like, okay, this is what I'm risking, and I'm prepared to lose that if I have to. Like you should never put your house on the line, like stuff you can't risk. But once you decide that's what I'm putting towards it, it's like, that's it. Like don't overthink it.
That is why it's good to start young. It's like, I don't even have a house to put on the line.
yeah, that helped as well. Like I was still living at home at that point. Like I didn't have really any bills. Like I didn't have a lot of responsibility, so it was easy for us to do that. So like literally, I started from like our parents' houses, like on the kitchen table and in the living room, and yeah.
Great, yeah, that great quintessential entrepreneurial story. I'm sure there was a garage in there at some point as well.
There was a garage in there, yeah, but it was too hot in the garage to do the packing, so we packed inside.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to jump in here to let you know, if you're enjoying this episode, it doesn't need to stop here. We've taken this episode plus all the other episodes and also video footage from the interviews and made it available for free. There's also a bunch of fantastic guides, tools and resources you can use to grow your business. To grab those tools, just go to www.the-entourage.com/podcast. Right, let's get back into the show. So so you know how you go about sort of marketing and getting out in front of customers. You know, as an e-commerce business, that's, you know, fundamental to your growth. That's obviously changed over the years. What else has changed along the way?
Well, I'll tell you that, like, and you can tell me if you want to steer it more back into like business tactics. But like me, like the growth you go on as an entrepreneur over like, it's only been like 2.5 years since we launched. Like we're joking, like it sounds like nothing, 2.5 years. But far out, like it seems like it's gone quickly, but also seems like it's been 10 years. So it's like the first year is almost too, like the first 9 months for us was almost too easy. It was too exciting. Everything went well. Everything went right. There was little challenges that popped up, but they never really lasted more than a day or two. And then you get into, like everyone says, like second year syndrome. Second year is like, especially if you've been successful, a lot of people know who you are now. So you're going to have a lot of competitors, a lot of people coming after you. So there's a lot more to deal with, and just like adapting to that, like constant pressure. It's like there's never going to be like a period where like everything just goes well for too long. Like there's always going to be a challenge, and the biggest thing is like, if you don't like solving problems, or if you just want an easy life, like don't start a business, because like you're going to have so much fun and so much success, but there's going to be shit you have to deal with. There's going to be late nights, there's going to be lonely nights, you know what I mean? There's going to be nights you just think, oh, why am I doing this? But that's the game.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect answer. Like, you know, how you develop is just so important to the success of your business. Like we always say that a business never outgrows its founder. Right? So if you want the business to keep on moving forwards, and you know you need to level up as well, and that's starting to, it's figuring out how to deal with problems that are getting bigger and bigger every day. You know, if you think back where you're like, you know, we both put almost everything we had into the business. It was $10,000 each. And now you'd be spending $10,000 in marketing in probably a day, right? And so like the scale of the decisions and the consequences are getting bigger, and you've got to be able to handle that. And so yeah, you definitely need to evolve. So that's awesome. That's the main thing that's really changed, is you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and like that's what you can control, right? I can't change any like new privacy laws. I can't change what influencers price themselves at. I can't change if there's more competitors. I can't change any of that stuff. All you can change is like yourself and what's going on. Like a big problem we had over that, like from like the in between year 1 and 2, was like so many competitors popped up, and we'd just be like, like for 6 months it'd annoy me, it'd frustrate me, like they're stealing our content, they're doing this or that, and it's so hard. Like now I'm past that, and like people always send me like, have you seen this brand? I'm like, dude, there's 100 of them. It's like, what can I do? It's like, and but that was a really important part as well. When I remember I was at an event, I can't remember which business event, and I bumped into like the High Smile guys, and I had the same chat with them, and obviously they're even like they're killing it. Like so they'd been through everything we'd been through, and they kind of said to me, because we were just on the other side of it then, so I was starting to understand it. But they said the same thing and just kind of like laughed. It's like, yeah, it frustrates you, but like it never ends.
You learn that there's so much more to running a really good business. Like the concept and the product, and even like copy and all that kind of stuff is important. It's part of it, particularly in an e-commerce business. But there's all the rest of it. There's the team, and there's your expansion plans, and then there's your operations, and all the rest. I mean, we've had a similar thing here with the Entourage. Like we've now been in business for 10 years, and there's been so many similar types of businesses pop up, and lots of like coaches hanging their shingle out and say, but it's like, and you just get to the point where you're like, that's fine. like good, like all power to you, like to actually get a business up and running and growing, and having 30, 40, 50 people in the business all operating well and together. Like that's hard stuff, and you can't copy it just overnight.
Yeah, and like you can watch a lot of like YouTube videos, listen to a lot of podcasts about like digital marketing or social media or influencers, any of that sort of stuff. But like until you get in there and you get the feel for like people management and change management and dealing with internal teams and external teams and managing things that aren't necessarily in your control, that's when you realize, wow, there's a whole other world behind this that you don't really know until you've been in that position. And that's been a really exciting challenge, because like a lot of people, like obviously I was young. I think I was like 24 when I launched this. So like I didn't have like 10 years corporate experience, and going from like employee to like team leader to like manager to like get all that. Like I just was thrown all straight in. So it's like there was a really big growth and learning journey that's been a part of me. And like I've grown up and changed like so much so quickly, and it kind of forces you to, it's like I always have like the team always pays me out because I have all these like dad jokes, and like like you're so young and you have these dad jokes, and like it's like having kids when you have a business, you know what I mean? It's like full time.
I say that to our team all the time. I'm like, why do I have to be the dad?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, and that is a journey that a lot of entrepreneurs kind of need to go on, and some deal with it better than others. Like it actually sounds like you really embraced it, because you get to the point where most people don't get into business thinking that they're going to be having to deal with like teams and operations and all this complexity, right? They get into business because they really love a thing, or they see something that really excites them, or they really need an outlet for their creativity. And then a couple of years down the path, they're like, oh, there's a lot more to this than I ever thought there was going to be. And it's very complex, and I'm not quite sure if I get my arms around it. I actually think it sounds like you're embracing that better than most. Like, do you feel like that's the case?
Yeah, absolutely. But there's parts, like there's moments in time, like along the journey, where you like think to yourself, you have those moments, you're like, shit, that's what it really is. And you got to make the decision, are you in or are you out? And once you make that decision, like that's it, I'm in, like I'm built for this is what I want to do. It's like you pick it up and you move on. But there was that time where I was like, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, you know what I mean? Like there's so much more, like there's way more good than bad, but like there's so much behind the scenes that you have to deal with. And it's like I don't remember the last time in the last like 2.5 years that you ever fully switched off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Always thinking. But so what do you do to give yourself a break? Like how do you mentally decompress, physically decompress? What's the strategy there?
Yeah, well, a big part of my life, maybe about 4.5 years, has been martial arts. So, like I'm a black belt in Kung Fu and I'm an instructor. So I do that 3 nights a week, and that breaks up my week. It's like I'm teaching for an hour and a half, then I'm training for an hour and a half. And so without that, I feel like I not like I would have struggled, but I felt like that's helped, because for a couple months when everything was shut down through COVID, and all I was waking up at 8, I couldn't do anything. So I was like, oh, I'll go to the office at 8 and I've worked till 10 p.m. Luckily in Sydney, as you know, we didn't have heavy lockdowns for too long. We came out of that and life started to go back to normal. I was like, geez, thank God. Like, I don't think I could keep doing that to myself for too much longer. We just would have burnt out.
Yeah, I think that physical outlet's really important. Like I'm a big surfer, and I also running, and I actually think they're kind of pretty similar in that they're quite. I never take clearly not surfing, but also running. I never take a phone, never listen to any music. It's all just about like just letting the thoughts get out of your head. It's kind of pretty meditative in that like you're doing either like when you're out surfing, it's like just going with the waves. When you're out running, it's just with your breath, and that's probably the time I decompress. If I didn't do that, I think I'd go freaking nuts.
Yeah. I actually got into running this year when all the gyms shut. So same thing. It was like I hated running. I was never like a runner. I'm like, well, why would you run? And then like it's like you get maybe like 3 or 4 weeks in, and your body starts to like adjust, and you're like, wait a minute, this is like it gets really addictive.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're definitely going on top of you. But I think that's one of the coolest things about running. Like, even if you haven't run for a while and then you pick it back up, it's amazing how quickly you kind of like get into it. Anyway, you were probably coming off a very high base, being a black belt, so it probably wouldn't be too hard for you.
Yeah, oh, you'd be surprised. Like, I suppose I might have been all right compared to some people, but boy, like it hurt. And it's the same thing. It's like you hurt and you want to stop running, and it's like, do you give up or do you not? And it's like you push through like in the next like couple kilometers, and then like you hit like 10 k's in, and it's like, wait a minute, it's easier than it was at the start.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So is that kind of physical exertion? Is that enough for your mental break as well, or like what do you do there?
Yeah, it is, and I feel like in the last, I know it's kind of contradicts what I said 2 minutes ago, but I feel like in the last 6 months, I've got to the point where like I just I just don't, like I said, now I'm hanging out with my friends. I just won't take my phone. I'll go to the beach. I won't take my phone. I just have these moments where like for like a little bit of time, I'll just not do it. You know what I mean? I'm just going to chill out. I'm not going to think about it. And then every time I do that, or if I take a weekend off and I don't work, I come back on Monday. I'm like, let's go. You know, like I'm so ready for it. So
Yeah, yeah. I think it's what a lot of people learn actually eventually is that the those times of pause. Sometimes you feel like you're wasting a bit of time, right? You're not being productive. It's like, how can I like put my phone down and not do work? But actually, they're the things that rejuvenate you. So when you get back into it, you're actually right back up there, ready to
yeah,
go.
but I feel like that's like insecurity. You know what I mean? Like if you don't really, if you don't not really sure, you don't really back yourself, or you feel, oh, if you haven't been working hard enough when you should have been working, that's when you feel like you can't. Like it's like earn your weekend. I don't know who says that. Maybe I think it was Matthew McConaughey recently. I heard him. He's like, earn your Saturdays. And if you do that, then like you can have a rest, like with like no guilty conscience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, awesome. So you've changed a lot over the last two and a bit years, and the marketing front has changed. What else has changed in the business? When you look back, what are you like? Wow, this is nowhere near like it was when we first started.
So probably like our management and understanding of finances and everything attached to that. Like we were two kids essentially, like early mid 20s. We launched the business and we saw an opportunity and we'd just go. Like we wouldn't think about like the tax structures or the duties or imports or shipping or returns or any of that stuff in that thing. Like so many people do, and like it was good that we almost didn't know at that first year because it gave us that like really like fast start. But we also like kind of, there was a lot of room for like process improvement. Like if about a year in we hired a finance manager and completely changed the game for us. If we had a finance manager like that in the first year, like our bottom line would have been even like, it would have been astronomical. Like if we did things right and had that crazy growth, it would have been mental. But that like, and even like, it's like I'm a big picture guy. I'm a very like optimist. When then like you get a finance manager who's like his details, he's like got to assess the risk, and like even though I'm still very much like an enthusiastic, optimistic person, you go through business for a little while and like you start to see patterns and you start to get a little bit wary of certain things. And until you've been burnt or almost been burnt or seen certain things go wrong, you're like far out. Like okay, that's mental note. Like that's an option. And
I think you guys went through a pretty classic pattern, but super fast. Like businesses that are quite successful will have a first period of like great growth, great revenue growth, and it's almost always there's almost always a complete lack of systems, processes, financial accountability underneath it. But it's you kind of need that in order to say like let's just go. But then they start getting to a point eventually where things start to crumble a little bit, and then you look back and you're like, you get someone in to look at your books, and they're like, "Where did all the money go?" And you're like, "I don't know, I've got no idea." And then you start putting in the process and the systems. Like I think that happens all the time to successful businesses. It just normally probably happens over a couple of years, whereas you guys had it like in 1 year, and then that's a good job figuring it all out afterwards. A lot of people get to it and they're like, "Where did all the money go? Like we've got nothing left."
that happens so often because people don't understand. Like it's really important at the start. We didn't, to be fair. Like we thought we did. We didn't. We're lucky we had the growth and the margin to kind of make these little mistakes. You know what I mean? It's like so many people think like, oh yeah, I buy it for this, I sell it for this. That's my profit. And then like they don't realize everything in between. It's like, no, no, no. And they sell all their initial batch of stock and they get back and they realize like, oh, how do I have less money than I did before? So like really like sit down with like an accountant or someone, I don't know if accountant's the right word. I was lucky my cousin was really successful in the finance world. So I got him to come and work with us, and that was a really, really good decision.
I reckon that's a good strategy. Actually, you're getting in someone that you trust and you respect, because they are going to be saying, for a founder who's like really focused on growth and really driving that marketing and sales, like someone's going to come in and they are going to say, no, you shouldn't be doing that. Like you shouldn't be spending, or you shouldn't be doing it that way. And that could be pretty hard to hear. And so I actually think you lucked on, whether you lucked on or it was on purpose, a really good strategy there. Bring in someone you trust, get them to give you the hard answers and adapt from there.
Yeah, and there was definitely a transition period or a growth period in which I was like, okay, yeah, that's what you're saying, but this is what we do, and this is how we do it, and then that's that. And there was a bit of give and take. Like sometimes most of the time, obviously being my business and my old cousin, like, all right, either you're right and it's gonna work out, or you're gonna make a mistake and you're gonna learn from that mistake. You know what I mean? So lucky I got more right than wrong, but still you go through that and you realize afterward, he's like, remember how I said we shouldn't do this or we should do this instead? I was like, yeah. So yeah.
Yes, I do remember that. Don't remind me. All right, awesome. Hey, I've got a couple more questions that I haven't seen and you haven't seen, of course. We've got about 5 questions here that we try to make it happen in a minute-ish. Not too strict on that. So you ready to pump through these?
Let's go.
Awesome. All right, question number 1. Would you ever go back to university and finish your law degree?
Oh, no way, not a chance in the world.
I knew the answer to that one. Number 2, what were the most important questions that you asked people in your market research before launching?
The problems or the pain points around their laser hair removal experience.
Yeah, great. And did anything pop up there that you weren't expecting, or it just kind of really guided you on the right path?
No, it just kind of reaffirmed all our beliefs and suspicions. It was pretty obvious like gaps. Do you know what I mean? We filled that spot, that gap in the market, but we just answered a lot of questions that were really obvious.
Question number 3, what kind of an impact do you want to make on the world through being an entrepreneur?
I don't know if I can answer this one quickly. It's something that I've been spending a lot of time thinking about, particularly over the last like 3 to 6 months, right? Because like you make a bit of money through business, or for me anyway. I don't know how there's these like billionaires that all they care about is making more money. Like I've been really reflecting on who I am and what my purpose is on this planet and what my goals are. And look, I'm still figuring out exactly what it is that I want to do, but I don't want to chase. I'm never going to start a business to make profit. I want to work on things that I'm passionate about. I want to be able to do a lot of like, it sounds so cliche. I just thought of it today. I've heard other people say it. I don't like it. I've got to phrase it a better way, but I really want to build my life resume. I just want to do as many things that I find cool or that's like really like rewarding for me, like giving back to certain different communities. I really want to impact my granddad, who was the closest person in the world to me, died of Alzheimer's. So I really want to do something in that space. That something's big for me. And yeah, I'm not sure what yet. I've been thinking, but I'm excited to chase that.
Yeah, it's admirable, and I can also understand why you're kind of wrestling with it, because it's like you don't want to be in business just to make money, but being successful commercially lets you do more things and drive more forwards. And so it's like, how do you close that loop? Well, it's awesome that you're wrestling with it already, so that's great. All right, question number 4. What is the first thing anyone should research and put into practice if they want to work on their personal development?
Well, this is just me, right? But my number one tool that I think, because like I see a lot of people, and one of the most common problems or issues or factors, whatever you want to call it, is like self-belief or self-confidence. So like I'm a really big believer, not because I read a book or I watched a movie about it, because I reflected on my own life and realized, holy shit, I've been living this my whole life. But like the power of like, and it's going to sound cheesy, like the law of attraction, but not just that. It's like the power of like, if you visualize who you want to become. So there's 2 types of goals to visualize. It's myself and the way I act in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or just seeing myself being more patient, being a better leader, being more caring, being whatever it may be, seeing myself living those moments in my life. Or it's like achieving these goals. It's like building another business, or like for the acting stuff, like winning an Oscar, and like really sitting in those moments and like living and visualizing not just that moment, but like 10 key moments leading up to that. And when I say visualize, I don't mean close my eyes for 10 seconds. I mean, like I live these storylines in my head and they feel real for like 30 minutes, an hour. And it doesn't feel like I'm visualizing. It feels like I'm time traveling. It feels that real. So just building your self-belief. And I feel like a really good way through that is visualization.
That is an awesome strategy. Yeah, because you are, with anything along the entrepreneurial journey, It's like you're creating something out of nothing. Like it doesn't yet exist. Like who you are going to be in a couple of years doesn't exist. Who the business is going to be doesn't exist. And so you have to make it out of nothing, and visualizing it is really putting that stake in the ground and saying, this is where we're going. Great strategy.
Your life is never going to outgrow you. You know what I mean? Like it's a common word. Like I think you said something similar to me a little earlier, but like your life won't outgrow you and your beliefs. You won't, very rarely will you ever achieve more than you think you actually will.
Yeah, 100%. All right, last question out of these 5, and then I've also got another one at the back of my mind, is if someone is hitting multiple roadblocks in the pre-launch phase, so back at your 10 months of hustle, what's the one thing they need to do to not give up and make it happen?
Well, depending on what it is, this is, and like you might not have someone where it was really good, and like I felt like in that period and probably in the first year, but mainly like the pre-launch period, having a business partner was actually really helpful, because there'll be moments where you're over it, or you want to give up, or you want to take a day off, and they don't. So they poke, no, we're going to work today. All right, cool. And there'll be moments where they can't figure something out and you jump in and you figure it out. Then like, we get to this together. So it's not really something that everyone can do, but I felt one of the biggest things that were really important in that first period, particularly if it's your first business, is like leaning on support, whether it's a friend or a mentor that has done it before, whether it's a business partner who kind of has complementary skills to you. But like either find someone to go on that journey with you, or lean on a mentor that can help guide you through those.
Yeah, because it can be a lonely journey when you're by yourself. Yeah, great. Okay, last question for me, which I'm actually very interested in. What's ahead? What are you excited about for next year or beyond?
I'm excited about a lot of things. Like I have a lot of I just want to keep exploring like my purpose and my passion. Like I want to do a lot with business. There'll be other businesses I launch. I'd say they'll have another business I've launched next year, which I'm very excited about. Hopefully that's Q1. Happy Skin Co. There's a whole other chapter coming for Happy Skin Co. as well in terms of new products. And then just like I do quite a bit of like, as obviously I'm on a podcast now, like I do a bit of podcasting when events with things. I did a lot of speaking, and I just like really want to lean into like, I've been really like figuring out my message and who I am and what I want to share with the world. And I've been getting clearer on that. And I think I'm going to do my own podcast and like as well. And it's going to be different because like I come on these things, and even today it's a business show, and I find myself almost every time talking a lot about mindset and personal growth, because like without that, I don't feel like the business success will happen, or it's a very big factor in it. So just exploring purpose and passion and seeing where that leads me.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, you've had a great journey so far, and given your enthusiasm, your optimism, I think your mindset's fantastic. You're going to have an awesome journey ahead of you. So Dylan Mullan, thank you very much for coming on the show today. Some great advice. Look forward to seeing everything that you, Happy Skin Co, and all your other ventures achieve. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Make It Happen show. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And it doesn't need to end there. We've actually gone and grabbed a whole bunch of extra resources for you. Behind the scenes footage, videos from this and all the other episodes, as well as show notes that you can grab for free. Just head along to www.the-entourage.com/podcast and you can grab all those extra resources. Thanks for tuning in, and I cannot wait to introduce you to our next guest on the next episode.